Today we're going to talk about the top 5 dual-purpose animals that you can raise, whether it be for homesteading purposes and everyday living or survival and prepping situations. But the only way you're going to find out our top 5 choices is if you stay tuned. Well, hey everybody, welcome back to Cattywampus Acres. I'm Jason and we love having you here, and if you're new here, please consider hitting that subscribe button down below and the bell next to it so you can keep up to date with everything we're doing here on the farm. So first things first, what is a dual-purpose animal and why would we want to raise them? So our definition of a dual-purpose animal today, what we're talking about, is basically an animal that can be used before you butcher it, before you process it, and that can be used for many things, whether it be for clothing, for cleaning yourself, for nourishment, for anything like that, and it can be used after it's butchered and processed as meat for your family and help to sustain and help your family survive in a bad situation. If we don't really use an animal to its fullest potential for everything that it can provide for us, we're really not giving that animal as much purpose. And here we believe that God wants us to be good stewards of everything He's given us. Therefore, we want to be good stewards for every animal and every vegetable and every fruit, every single thing we do here on this homestead. Well, first up on our list, and number 5 in our list of 5, is going to be sheep. Well, how is a sheep a dual-purpose animal? We do not raise sheep here on our farm, nor have we ever. But we certainly have a lot of friends who do, and that's friends all over the country and all over the world that we know that raise sheep. And just by raising goats over the years, we know quite a bit about sheep. They are similar, there's few differences, nutritional things and stuff like that, but we do know quite a bit about sheep and know that they can be a great dual-purpose animal. So what are some pros for raising sheep? First of all, wool. Obviously, the wool that you are getting from shearing sheep is going to be very beneficial in making clothing or making blankets or items like that. This is good for homesteading purposes. You can make money off of this and you can sort of sustain your homestead by doing this. Also, in a SHTF situation or a prepping situation, you could certainly use that if clothes weren't being made anymore. It could provide for your family a way to clothe them and keep them warm. You can also use them for milk. That is, if it's a ewe, you can certainly use that sheep for milk. I've only tried sheep's milk one time. I thought it was pretty good. It's definitely not as good as goat's milk, but you can milk a ewe and use that milk while the animal is still alive, and that's just yet another purpose. So some of these, I guess, will go beyond dual purpose, maybe multiple purposes for some of these animals. Obviously, another pro would be when you butcher a sheep, you can use that animal as meat, and that's what we're talking about today. If you've ever had lamb's meat before, you know that it is very, very delicious meat and makes for a really, really good meal, and it does provide quite a bit depending on what type of sheep you raise. And sheep can also be very easy to basically hold in and maintain a lot of the time, as long as you have the basic infrastructure set up before you start raising them. Now, what are some cons with raising sheep? Sheep are not very bright animals. They are actually pretty dumb animals, and that can cause an issue sometimes with raising an animal that is not very intelligent. And I'm sure we could go on and on about how hard it is and how complicated it can be to raise a not very smart animal. A con that I could think of also with these animals is when you're using them for wool, the process in making wool into fiber can sort of be a pain in the butt sometimes if you don't have the setup or if you don't know how to spin wool. So certainly before you get into a prepping kind of situation, you would want to learn and have some kind of setup or know somebody who does on how to turn that wool into useful fiber. And if you don't have a setup or you don't know how to turn this wool into fiber, refer back to our last video when we talk about bartering, and I'll put a link up here, I think, somewhere. I'll put a link up to our last video about bartering, and then there we're talking about how you can barter for services and goods that you have or you don't have, so you can have a complete homestead, complete prepping situation. Therefore, if you maybe had some extra pork or something like that laying around, if you know somebody that has the ability to spin the wool into fiber, that is certainly something that you could barter with them, and you can maybe work something out with them. So if you don't want to learn how to do it, or you don't have the process to do it, just know, find somebody who can, and you can trade your stuff with them. Well, next is number 4 on our list, and when we're talking about number 4, we actually got one back behind me. He's a little shy. We're talking about rabbits. One of the coolest things about rabbits is that they can be used in many prepping and homesteading situations. Rabbits do not need a huge amount of acreage in order to be raised. Hey, there he is, right there. Rabbits actually only need a small area in a hutch or something that you can give them, and that's really, they can survive there until they are fully used for whatever purpose that you need them for. They're good in urban, suburban, and rural areas. They also don't make a lot of noise. So if you have an HOA and you live in like a subdivision kind of situation, but you still want to prep a little bit, that is certainly a phenomenal animal that you can use. So what are some pros to raising rabbits? Well, one of the reasons I brought you in here to our enclosed garden is we use rabbits for fertilizer. That is really awesome. And when I say fertilizer, this stuff is amazing cold fertilizer. Cold fertilizer refers to fertilizer that does not require to be composted before you put it on your crops, on your plants, on your fruit, things like that. And our buddy here has actually left us a little pile of fertilizer right back here. Also, they can be used in like a tractor kind of situation. This isn't really a tractor, it is just a cage, but we've moved him around, and we've actually used him to till up some areas and fertilize and knock down some weeds, because he will munch on that grass and those weeds quite a bit. Rabbit meat is also a really, really good meat. The thing that can be also be a con with rabbit's meat is you can actually get protein poisoning if you were to just eat rabbit meat. Rabbit meat is probably, if not the leanest meat that exists. Therefore, if you're not using a fat like a butter or something like that, an oil, to cook with when you're doing it, or if you were just stuck out in the wilderness and you just ate rabbit, you would actually die, because your body wouldn't be able to process all that protein without fat being taken in as well. Well, here's another pro. This is from a silver fox rabbit. Actually, one of our friends tanned this. You can use a rabbit fur, once it's been processed and tanned and stuff, to make a hat, a blanket, any piece of clothing, basically, something that keep you warm. In a really rough situation, when it's really, really cold or something like that in winter, and maybe you don't have a heat source all day long, you could use the rabbit fur to keep you and your family warm. And as you can see, this is pretty big. It's pretty big. It wouldn't take a whole lot of rabbits, and our friends are very, very good at this. Once again, bartering. That they have the ability to turn these rabbit skins into something very useful, and it's actually pretty cool looking as well. Rabbits are definitely going to be our number 4 on the list. We actually at one point said that we would never raise rabbits, and here we are raising rabbits. We don't raise them to the extent of some of our friends, but we are enjoying having them around for many, many purposes. So although I'm not out here with any of these next animals, that is for a reason, and it's because we actually used these animals for their full potential. And that makes number 3 on our list, pigs. Well, I understand that pork is not for everyone. We love it here. We certainly use it quite a bit in many different meals. I really enjoy it, and obviously barbecue is just amazing. And you're not having barbecue unless you're having pork, at least occasionally. But I understand for religious purposes, some people can't consume it, and maybe health purposes, some people don't want to, or whatever. Some of you may actually be thinking, how in the world is a pig a dual-purpose animal? I certainly would not try and milk a pig, so that's not really an option. But there are other ways that you can use pigs and make them a multi-purpose animal. One of the ways that we have not done ourselves yet, but I definitely have used in other places, is for leather. Pig leather is a fantastic leather. It is very, very strong. It actually looks really, really nice. And I actually have a really big piece of pig leather inside my workshop that I'm planning to use to make something, a gift for my father-in-law. So I won't get into it just in case he watches this video. But the main thing we've used pigs for, and that is really why I'm in the area that I'm in right now, and that's our orchard, is we use pigs for land clearing. Before we had this orchard in here, we ran pigs through here in electric fence for quite a while, and those pigs were able to till up this ground and make it basically better for growing. We did that in the enclosed garden, we did that in the big garden, and then we have 2 plots over here that we did that. And pigs, just a few pigs, will clear a lot of land in just a matter of a few days to a few weeks, depending on how big the area is. So what are some pros with pigs? Well, one of my favorite parts of pigs is they grow very, very quickly. Depending on the breed, they can grow to full size for butchering in about 8 months. Like, that's crazy. Some actually grow faster, and some take a little bit longer, like American guinea hogs that we used to have. And we have videos that I'll try and link above here that show us raising American guinea hogs. They were our first experience with pigs, and I would not give that up for the world. But that's not a pig that we're going to be raising again, just because of the length of time and the smaller size. One of the best parts when you're talking about the meat from the animal is the meat to bone ratio. Pigs have probably the best meat to bone ratio out of all animals. When it comes to like a 350 pound pig, you are going to get well over 200 pounds of meat after you've dressed that animal and removed the bones, which is phenomenal. You can use almost, if not every single piece of the pig for something on your homestead or prepping situation. Hooves can actually be used for your dog treats, same with the ears. A lot of people do like eating the internal organs and stuff like that. The intestines can be used for making sausage. I'm telling you, pigs are a super versatile animal. We love them here. They are, I don't know, I can't say enough about pigs. So what are some cons to raising pigs? Certainly one is that they are very, very strong animals, therefore they can be a little bit hard to handle. They are very food motivated, so once you learn what their food is that they like, which is a lot of pretty much anything, you can get those pigs to do what you want, move where you want them to move. Some people, when they've never handled a pig, don't realize that these animals are solid muscle, and from the time they're piglets all the way up, these things are super, super strong, and if they're big enough, can kill you and can really harm you. So that is something to keep in mind. Like I mentioned, that pigs can clear land, that can also be a con in the sense that they can be very destructive. I don't think they take up as much space because you can keep them in an area and they can be happy in that area. But wherever you put them, if you are trying to save anything in that area, I can guarantee you it's going to be destroyed. And depending on your situation, breeding can be sort of a hassle. In vitro fertilization is definitely the best way to do it, but if you don't have access for that, that can be a problem. You can certainly breed a male with a female, but just remember, if you're doing that, that male is going to be eventually, for a lot of the breeds, 600, 800, 1,000 pounds, and you have to feed this animal all year round for maybe once or twice a year. So just think about that. Which actually reminds me of a benefit pro in the sense that pigs' gestation is very, very short. Pigs have a gestation period of 3 months, 3 weeks, 3 days, and they are almost spot on to their gestation period every single time. Well, if you've watched us before, you've probably guessed our next animal. This is our number 2 on our list of dual purpose animals, and that is goats. And they're in chow down mode right now. I'm sure they'll be able to help with the video here in a second. You were probably thinking goats were going to be number 1 on our list, but I have a special one in store for number 1, and I'll explain why I think they're number 1. So there are so many different kinds of breeds of goats. There are meat goats, there are dairy goats, but they are definitely a phenomenal dual purpose animal. Well, obviously the reason that we think goats are awesome is because we here have a goat dairy, and we use our goat dairy, our milk, to make our soap. And if you've not checked out cattywampusacres.com, now is your chance. Finish the video, then go to cattywampusacres.com, get yourself clean over there. Continuing on, we use goat's milk for so many things on the farm. You can use them for homesteading situations and for prepping situations of all kinds. The milk can be used for drinking. The milk can be used for soap, as I already mentioned. It can be used for butter. It can be used for creams. It can be used for buttermilk, for cheese, for ice cream. There are an unending amount of ways for you to use goat milk on your farm, homestead, prepping situation. Goat's milk is a lot easier to handle for people who are lactose intolerant because the fat globules are actually smaller than in cow's milk. It is a better quality milk because it has a higher fat content inside the milk. Goat's milk is naturally homogenized, so it is actually more stable as far as separation goes when you put it in your cooler or refrigerator or whatever situation. It takes many days to get it to separate into cream, and when it does, it's only a very fine line. Goats are also very phenomenal land clearing creatures. Isn't that right, Opal? Goats can be used to clear anything that is basically up off the ground. Goats are a browsing animal opposed to a grazing animal. Therefore, they will eat briars, they will eat kudzu, they will eat poison ivy, poison oak, poison sumac, any of the stuff that sort of makes us uncomfortable out in the woods. They will eat it. They love leaves, they love anything where they can keep their head up and eat on that. And so they are phenomenal land clearers, and a lot of people use them for that specific purpose. Also, if you'd like to follow them around or gather it up after the fact, you can use their manure as fertilizer as well, although I don't think it's as cold a fertilizer as rabbit's poop. Being that they are herbivores, their manure is very safe to use. And then finally, obviously goats can be used for meat purposes. The dairy goat breeds are not as good. They don't have as great of a meat to bone ratio, but certainly in those kind of situations, they would be phenomenal for that, and to feed your family and to sustain your family. But the meat goats, man, they are really good producers. They have a really good ratio, and almost all religions are able to eat goat's meat. That's why it is the #1 consumed meat all around the world. There are very few cons when we talk about goats. They are very clean animals. They are very docile animals. They don't require very much upkeep. We have a lot of videos on goats that explain the different breeds and different benefits to raising goats. Quit. If I had to think of a con, depending on the size of goat you raise, the bigger the goat, if you're using it for like meat purposes, the more space and the more food they're gonna require. But like I said before, really, if you have a wooded kind of situation, if you're out in the wilderness, they will find stuff to eat. There's very few things that they can't eat, and they typically, not always, will know what they should and should not eat. And finally, that brings us to #1. Do you know what it is, Momiv? Do you know what it is, buddy? And what I believe to be the most versatile, the best homesteading / prepping / survival / SHTF animal that exists, and I'm gonna call that chicken. So why did I put chickens as #1 on our list? Well, chickens can be raised almost anywhere in the world, in the country, and they don't require very much at all. Chickens are really good at finding what they need to survive. Chickens are omnivores, therefore, no matter what food source is in front of them, they are going to use it. If it's dirt, if it's grass, if it's the woods, no matter what it is, they are gonna find something to eat. So what are the pros to raising chickens? Chickens, obviously eggs. Eggs are awesome. What a great source of protein. In my opinion, even although I'm not a nutritionist or anything like that, I could probably survive quite a while on just eggs. Chickens produce, depending on the breed, can produce between 3 to 7 eggs per week. These Brahmas here, these are a phenomenal dual purpose bird because you can see they have a very big size about them. So they are really good after the fact when they become meat, but they also lay a good amount of eggs per week. We also raise leghorns. You can probably see over here, some behind me. They are not as good of a meat bird. You could definitely use them for stews and for the organs, but these things are the best egg layers around. You're getting 6 to 7 eggs a week with a leghorn. Chickens are phenomenal land clearing creatures. They don't work as fast as the pigs, but they will eat everything in their path. If you leave them there long enough, they're gonna take care of it all. And if you keep up with some of our upcoming videos, I promise you we're gonna be building an amazing, maybe one of the most amazing chicken tractors you've ever seen. I need to build a new chicken tractor, and I want to include you guys when I build it. I'm going to make it light and very easy to move, so it doesn't require any equipment or anything like that. So you've probably heard one of the cons of chickens. If you have roosters, they can be loud. Hens make some noise when they're laying eggs. It's called an egg song, but it is certainly not that crazy. A lot of times, because of the noise, subdivisions won't allow chickens. It is what it is. That's up to you to decide whether you can raise them or not, and up to your area. And like I mentioned before, one of the pros can also be a con, where if you leave a chicken in an area that you are trying to preserve, it is going to be destroyed. They will eat every single thing in their path. There won't be a shred of grass or vegetation left. They will eat all the bugs, they will eat everything. So just keep that in mind. It can be a benefit, it can also be a con. But in my opinion, chickens are the #1 prepping, survivalist, homesteading animal, dual purpose animal that exists. I think they're awesome. If you disagree with me, leave us a comment. If you agree with me, give us a comment about it. Well, there you have it. That is Cattywampus Acres, and mine specifically, my top 5 dual purpose animals for homesteading and prepping. I understand that they may not all work for everybody, and if that's the case, give us some ideas down below in the comments and let us know what you think is a better or worse animal, dual purpose animal that is. Raising dual purpose animals, in our opinion, is essential to homesteading situations, living every day, as well as prepping situations when you need to store up food or survive long term in a crazy, tough situation. Make sure you check out cattywampusacres.com for all of our amazing soaps. We've got a couple new soaps we're going to be adding on there very, very soon. Be sure to check out our affiliate links right down here in the description, and check out all the amazing affiliate links we have down there. I'm telling you, there's some good products. I would not stand behind them and be an affiliate with them if they were not really, really good stuff. Remember what we always say here: when you homestead, you're home fed. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you guys next time.